So what is Lytro?
Well, Lytro is a company that is founded on the principle of what we call light field technology. And a light field, basically a sensor takes the light rays that come in and captures not only the intensity and direction of the rays, but also the photons that you typically would have in a normal a sensor in a typical camera. So what it does is it gives you this added capability, added data to have a picture that has a whole lot more information in it. That's the technical side of it. The way that it actually comes to be is that we use that data, all the information that we have just recorded with that image, and you can do a lot of things with it. We became famous with our first product for being able to refocus. You click on one part of the photo and you click on another part of the photo and it refocuses in different layers. But that's just the beginning of what you can do with light field technology. As an example, this is this camera that we're coming out with called the Lytro Illum. When it takes an image, the current camera is a fixed f2 all the way through the entire range of a zoom lens. It's 30 to 250. You would say, oh well, that's going to be very hard to have a shallow depth of field or a large depth of field at different points. But we actually have the ability to vary the depth of field after you've taken the image. Not only can you change the focal point, you can change the depth of field. So you could change the focal point and the depth of field together to completely change how that image ultimately is rendered.
Does it mean that a photographer has to know anything about photography anymore, because he can afterwards change the photo like he wants?
Well, I think that's a misnomer, because it's not a product that fixes problems. I had a professional photographer tell me, please don't tell me that it's going to fix my refocusing. I didn't go to 5 years of photography school to learn how to not to focus.
I can imagine.
That's not the point. On the contrary, what it allows you to do is, if you're a professional photographer or just an avid amateur, is to tell a story. You can not only make your images interactive. When you upload this image to Lytro.com or to several other sites that are actually using our player natively, you can click on any part of the image and it's interactive. You can have the user basically telling a story from your image. In addition, you could actually animate, using our desktop software, different points in that same image. The story I like to use is a wedding photo. If you had a bride and a groom and a ring bearer, you could actually animate this so that it has a focal point and a depth of field that's shallow on just the bride, and then it could move to the groom, and then it could move to the ring bearer. So you're actually telling a story, and what we call that is a living picture.
So you can make kind of keyframing in your photograph, so you can keyframe what will be visible.
That's exactly what it is. It is all done on keyframes, transitions, what's in focus, what's not in focus, the depth of field, transitions, zoom, etc. All that can be done. In addition, because the camera is capturing the light rays, it's actually anticipating through the software where the light would have gone, and it's basically creating a 3D image. You can actually take any photo that's taken with the Illum, can be rendered in 3D on an active screen or on a passive screen, and see it in 3D. That also gives us the ability to be able to have what we call perspective shift. It basically gives the image an extra bit of life. And so when you're animating, not only can you move through different points and tell a story, but the image comes alive from the ability to do that perspective shift.
And perspective shift will say you cannot really move around the image, but you can see it from different angles.
Correct. It's not a 360. It's not magic. It's not completely going around, but it does anticipate where the light would have been, and then it renders the image beyond that.
Then this camera has a lot more resolution than the previous camera had.
Correct. In the previous camera, the sensor was a 10 megaray sensor, 11 megaray sensor. This is now 40. The sensor size is 4 times as big as it was in the original, and it's capturing a lot more data. But to do that, we need a very powerful processor. So we have a Qualcomm Snapdragon processor that's included that does all that processing. It's basically like having an iPad mini doing the processing of the images. So it's a huge advancement in the quality of the processor and of the sensor itself.
When we take pictures with this camera, then the picture is stored on a memory card.
Correct.
But what happens after that?
It's an SD card that we use to store the memory, so any SD card is going to work in there. It can be connected via USB 3.0, or you just pull out the actual card itself and place it into the... Sorry, hey Jan? I'm doing this video.
I'll do it again.
That's totally fine, guys.
Yeah? So,
Can you ask the question again?
yeah. So when people take pictures with this camera, it's stored on the SD card, but what happens after that?
Yeah, so the interface, we have an SD card, so any standard SD card will work with it. It also has a USB 3.0, so you can connect it and stream it right off of the card on the camera, or you just pull the SD card out, put it into the computer. We then have a desktop software which is free to download, works on Mac or on PC, and that desktop software basically gives you editing capabilities that you would have, and it looks a lot like a simple desktop editing software. What's beautiful about it, though, is it takes all the data points that it's gathered, much more than in a 2D file, and allows you to do other things with it. In that desktop software is where you can change the focus point, change the depth of field. Even though this is a fixed f-stop of f2.0, I can simulate going from f1 to 16, so I can have a very shallow depth of field or a very wide depth of field.
Yeah.
I can do the animations that I just talked about, but it's also a proprietary Lytro RAW file, and as such I can take that file and edit it as any other RAW file. I can change the white balance, the tint, but I can actually even do tilt shift, so you don't need an extra adapter to do tilt shift. And then one of the most amazing capabilities of this is macro. So you can actually render something that's touching the lens. In fact, you could actually even render a fingerprint on the front of the lens. That's how tight the rendering capability is on macro. And in a macro environment, you're usually very concerned with depth of field. It's very, very shallow. You've got a deeper depth of field usually using the Lytro, and it's got an amazing capability to do macro. So all those things are accessed in that desktop software once you've pulled it off the camera. In addition, if you didn't want to do it on the desktop software, you can actually create a Wi-Fi hotspot with the camera, connect it to our iOS app, and stream it directly to that iOS app. In there, you can also change the depth of field, change the focal point, add it to a queue to be uploaded to Facebook or Twitter, etc. as well.
You already mentioned Facebook and Twitter. They have the adaptation of these files already inside. What if I want to use it on my own website?
So there's a couple of ways to do that. We actually provide code that allows you to embed a frame on your site, in an email, on a web blog, whatever it might be. And that allows a user or a viewer of the image to interact with the image. They can change the focus, they can zoom in, create perspective shift online in that image itself.
But then the image is at my website, or do I just give an iframe on my website to, for example, the image on your servers?
Correct. It's hosted on lytro.com for it to be that way. But we have also, for anybody that wanted to have that native interaction on their site, we've actually provided the code for our WebGL player for anybody to embed it in their site. So you could have native interaction with any Lytro image on your site if you wanted. A very popular site in the United States called 500px has actually already taken that code and integrated it. So any image you upload from Lytro onto that site, which is important for pros because they were worried about copyright and other things, is able to be natively interacted with as if it was on lytro.com.
Yeah. Okay, so that's a possibility if you want that.
Absolutely. In addition, anything you upload to lytro.com becomes your asset, and when you're logged into our iOS app, as an example, you can stream any of those images that are on lytro.com straight to the iPad app.
Talking about the iPad app, I want to see it.
Let's go take a look.
Here is an iPad and the app is installed.
That's right. Let's take a look at the iPad. So I think one of the important things for us is that you have access to your images any place. Of course, anything you upload to lytro.com, as I mentioned, will stream into this app. When you first log into this app, you'll have a couple of streams. You'll have a stream that we at Lytro actually curate Professionals, as well as anybody that loads images onto Lytro.com on their own accounts, may have that image used in our curated. We'll of course contact them to use our image, but we do look at anybody's photos to be able to say, hey, that would be a great one that we'd love to feature on Lytro.com. All those curated images come straight into the app itself. So you can go ahead and every single day there are going to be new images that will come on this stream. On the app you'll also have your own personal stream, and so you can also pull up your own images that you've taken and have uploaded to Lytro.com. So what's key in using this iPad app is first of all, a couple of key capabilities. You might be able to see some of the perspective shift here. Hopefully we don't have much of a glare. It's actually using the accelerometer in the iPad to then use that perspective shift, kind of creating a living picture out of that. And when you click into any particular image, you'll have what you've taken before, and you're able to interact with this image. By clicking on it, you can change the focus, and then you're able to also change the depth of field by simply moving your fingers like this. So now you see an image that has gone from a very tight depth of field, probably around f2, to a full in-depth image. In the next release of this app, we're also going to have the animation that we'll be able to do on the desktop to have it natively available inside of the app as well.
Wow. You can see all your photos here.
Yes.
Can you also edit your photos?
You can't edit all the photos. When you're actually streaming them from the camera, you can play with them to make sure that the depth of field is accurate and the focal points are accurate. And again, a pro being in the field would be very interested in making sure that whatever they've taken right there is going to work for what they had envisioned.
So it's more for reference than for editing?
Yes, I mean the capability on the desktop really has so much more to offer, so we're trying to make this more of a viewing and a basic editing and uploading platform.
Yeah. Then let's take a look at the desktop.
Let's go take a look.
So now we are watching the full-size desktop app, and Jeff is going to show us what's possible with that.
What's important to know about this app is that it's free and it's downloadable for anybody that does or does not even have a Lytro camera. Whether it's the first generation or the second, they definitely can use the images here. And the desktop app is compatible with both Mac and PC. You're able to download it from Lytro.com. Very quick download. When you pull some of the first images off of your Lytro Illum via the SD card, just pop it in, it automatically senses it and will ask you if you want to auto import, similar to any other kind of photo editing software. Very quick. It'll pull it into a library, and from this library you'll be able to see all of your images. You can do some basic prioritization in this image view where you can put 1 or 2 or 3 stars, you can delete the images, but what the real power comes in is when you break in to a particular image. You'll be able to check out the information with most any other desktop editing software of how that image was shot. Of course, we're always going to have an f2 because the images are always images are always taken on a Lytro Illum at f2, and then it shows your shutter speed and ISO, etc. Nothing crazy interesting there, but what is very interesting is that at this point you see an image here that is fully in focus. Well, this, as we know, was taken originally in f2. So there's your original focal point and your original depth of field. Yeah. I can click on this image in here and refocus just as we saw on the iPad app. Now, this is, of course, ready to edit in any other way. I can change the white balance, I can change cropping, tone, saturation, etc., including sharpening. And as I mentioned, you can even do a tilt shift. And you can even change the rotation of the tilt shift, which is hard to do with some of the adapters. But what I love the most is this very easy slider bar. Again, it was taken natively at f2. I can slide this over to f1, making the depth of field even shorter than ever is possible with the hardware. Or I can go all the way up to f16, which gives me the full image that's fully in view and in focus.
So you're really in control of how the image is going to look like.
Yeah, it's great. And of course, we're not trying to duplicate what Photoshop or something else might do. We're really trying to enable the user to take advantage of the data that is now on there because of the light field technology. As I mentioned, the ability in my example of a wedding shot with a bride and a groom and a ring bearer, well, that comes from doing an animation. Any shot that you take actually has the ability to be animated automatically. The computer will figure out a number of the focal points and will create its own animation, transitions, etc. But if I want to do my own, I can also go off and do my own. That particular one didn't show any unique depth of field or animation points. So in here, using keyframes, as you had suggested before, I can do any kind of transition. I can make the focal point be different. I can make the depth of field different. I can do transitions that I want, fast or slow, etc., all with different keyframes that I add. So I can make a little video as long as I want with all those different keyframes. That animated movie can be exported to an MP4, so that can be used and uploaded in any standard browser or file structure.
You already mentioned the word video now. Is this file size big enough to, for example, embed it in a video? So can I use it when I'm a videographer as a special effect in my video films?
Yeah, actually you can. As long as you can embed an MP4, you could do that. In fact, one of our pro photographers recently just took a number of different illustrations that he did with several pictures, combined them into one combined MP4 to make a mini movie, but it took advantage of all the light field technologies as well.
So this is a great app for videographers as well. And also note that when people are changing the f-stop, it doesn't do anything with the lightening of the file. It only does something with the depth of field, but not with the lightening.
Exactly, but you do have the ability to change the tone and exposure and highlights and even alter the white balance. You can go with the white balance that you shot originally, or you can simulate a cloudy or other kinds of scenario with the white balance. One thing I'll call out, on any still image, you're also able to export that image either to a JPEG or to a TIFF file. So if you wanted to edit this in Photoshop, you can export it into a 7-layer TIFF file, edit those layers, re-import it into the desktop software, and you'll have all the functionality that you had originally with the ability to change the depth of field and the focal points.
Yeah.
And I'll show you one last really great thing, which I'll just call gravy. It's a nice to have. I wouldn't say I would go out and buy the camera just for this unless you love 3D and you've got a great active TV. But every image that is taken with the Illum will render in 3D. Either an anagram or side by side. So if you had an active TV, you'd be able to do that. And we can show you here in our booth. We're showing off the 3D right here. So again, any particular image would be able to be rendered in 3D. You can put on some sexy glasses for this one, or you can do the one with the active one.
Yeah. I think it's really a great product. What will be the availability and what will be the price?
The price in Europe is 1,599 euros. It is available right now in Germany at the Europa photo dealers and selected ones in Netherlands. And we're rolling out across UK, France, and the Nordics in the coming weeks.
So it will be available in the next coming weeks everywhere?
Yes, absolutely. It's available online at a number of places as well. As I mentioned, we're launching here in Germany with Europa photo dealers. And then very, very soon thereafter will be in Ring Photo, Amazon, and then a number of dealers in Netherlands as well.
Great. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.